So let me get started and just say welcome to the webinar. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's a Q&A section there, and you can just press on that, put in questions, and I'll get to them as we're going through this. If can everybody hear me okay? If you just want to put in there to type in that you can hear me okay, that would be great. Into the Q&A. See, make sure that I'm unmuted. I think I am, and you can see my video, and hopefully you can see my screen. So, okay, so again, thank you for joining us today, and I'll get on with this and try and get it done in 30 minutes or so. So yeah, this is a piece of software I've been working on now for over a year. The IPU commissioned us to build it. It was built initially for the flu season last year, so the 2020-21 flu season. And it was the IPU commissioned it because there really wasn't a piece of software suited to vaccination or flu vaccinations in the Irish marketplace. Nothing optimized for pharmacy. And since then, though, we've learned an awful lot of lessons about deploying this software in what was a very difficult flu season. And obviously, there's a lot of changes that have to be made for COVID-19 as well. So we put all of these changes into it, and we're going to go through some of that today. So let me just tell you a little bit about what this software is all about. It's a unique piece of software in terms of bookings. Most booking software about calendars and scheduling, and pretty much that's it. But this really has been optimized for a pharmacy, making the whole vaccination process completely paperless. And it also incorporates a waitlist mode, so a way for you, for patients themselves, or indeed for you, to register a patient on a waitlist. And that allows you to do prioritization and contingency planning, and indeed there's rules, or we've got tools in there to facilitate that. And we built that because most calendar functions really don't have this type of item, and they don't have to consider that there are supply-demand imbalances. So like supply of the vaccine may be very low and demand may be very high. And therefore, they don't consider that as a key thing. And that's really what the waitlist mode is all about. It's about it being able to get people to register online or in the pharmacy, and then build up that sort of waiting list of people who have registered for vaccination and then convert them into an appointment. We'll go through that in a few minutes. And then there's a scheduling mode. And this is where, more standard, this is where appointments get confirmed. There's a confirmation reminder workflow with messaging and so on. Unique again to this is that it has a second shot and booster shot appointment method, so that we can add second vaccination, third vaccination, etc. into it. And you can easily switch either individual patients or indeed the whole booking widget itself on the website between waitlist mode and scheduling mode. So that's sort of a quick overview of the software. So there's a waitlist and a scheduling mode, and you can switch between the two of them. So getting data into the actual system itself, I mean, there's three primary ways. One is we have this booking widget that you put onto your website. And so I just take something off there. The booking widget then, it allows patients to click a book COVID-19 vaccination. They press that on your website, and then they can go and fill in absolutely everything. They can register themselves, put in their PPS number, contact details. The intake form can be completed. They can read all the information of the vaccination, and then they can do an online consent. So everything is there in that website widget mode. And then there's sort of there's a mode whereby you can manually enter in information on behalf of the patient. So you might want to do an analysis of your PMR, for example, and you want to see who has diabetes, and you want to get them all out and get them sort of prioritize them. Then you can enter them in manually. It's also suited to people who just walk in and just want to be entered into a waiting list or confirmed an appointment, and also people who phone call in. So that's sort of the manual mode. And then there's our mobile app. So just recently we've upgraded our Refill Assistant mobile app, and it'll also have the ability to do the patient self-service modes. Works slightly differently to the website widget in that it's integrated with the patient information that is already on the mobile app, and it uses different messaging system, but it's in essence it's a self-service mode for patients as well. So there's three ways to get data into the system, either with a website widget you plug onto your website, and it'll work on any website, so your existing website, our mobile app, or manual data entry. Key features of the software are it allows you to get contact details on PPS and record medical information that the patient will enter, obtain vaccination consent that allows you to schedule a second vaccination, and allows you to easily switch between the waitlist and scheduling modes of operation. We also facilitate the exporting of appointments into an Excel file, so to do analysis or maybe to upload into the HSE PCRS system. The content is completely configurable, so things like the title of the vaccination, subtitle, the information that's imparted to the patient, the consent text, that's completely configurable. It does support external clinics, so if you have a consultation room in your pharmacy and you're running that at a certain number of hours, and you also have, say, a room in the shopping center beside you, or you set up an external clinic in a Pepsi Cola or wherever it's going to be, whatever factory it's going to be, that can be set up separately with different hours. Also, if you have a pharmacy that has multiple locations, it will support that. It works in your existing website. We've checked it with pretty much every pharmacy website technology that there is, and it works. And also, it's completely paperless, so it allows you to go completely paperless with the system when it's using patient self-service mode. So let me just go through a few things on the initial setup just after that introduction. Any questions on that, you can just type them in on the box, and yeah, I'll be glad to get them and answer your questions. So this is sort of a screen from our system. I'm gonna log in and show you this in a few minutes, but this is a screen from our system, and this is what it looks like here when you log in. So this is our portal. It's online. You get at it via Chrome or a website browser, so it's a cloud-based tool. And any of you who are using our current systems will our mobile app, website, etc., you'll recognize this, but you will notice that on the right hand side there's an appointments tab, and that's where all these appointments come in. So a couple of things I'm just going to highlight in terms of the initial setup. If you're getting this, like, we deliver it to you ready to use, but there's a couple of things that you'll have to run through to make sure it's optimized for the pharmacy. So there is on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see those three little lines. I'll just mouse over that for a second, and that'll bring up the setup instructions, appointment types, exports, etc., and the consulting room or other resources that are there. So if you want to press the view booking form, then that's the booking form as viewed by the patient. So you can test that without actually having to put it onto your website. If you want to add the booking form to your website, these are the setup instructions. You just click on that, copy and paste that, send to your developer. It only takes a couple of minutes to install it. The appointment types and the appointment type setup are all in here under the appointment type. So we have, generally speaking, if you've just joined us as a customer, firstly, thank you. But in here, we'll just have set up initially COVID-1 vaccination, COVID-2 vaccination, and then other things like flu and Viagra Connect or whatever else can be added later on. But initially, that's what we'll be setting up for you. And it's in there that you switch appointments on, as in make them visible, switch them off, make them invisible to patients, or put them into a waitlist mode. And then there is the resources. So the resources are where you do the scheduling. So I've got one resource in this pharmacy, and this is our consulting room. So that's the initial setup. So just to go back and summarize the initial setup, and just to say what you have to do, and we give this to you. I mean, we've got certain things done, like it's all set up, but one thing that you'd have to look at is your vaccination scheduling. How are you going to do that, and what is it going to look like? You'll have opening hours for vaccinations, and they do not need to be the same as your pharmacy opening hours. And there's the appointment type set up. You want it to be visible, invisible, registered for a waiting list, and I'll show you that in a second. You'll also want to review the online booking form. You'd want to view it in two modes, one in booking mode and the other in the waitlist registration mode. Make sure you're happy with the content in there. You will have filled out a form, and you would have said, change things, add things, and we'll do all of that. But sometimes when you see it in situ and in real life, you want to make some changes, and that's not a problem. You just come back to me and we'll do that. You'll also want to get the form added to your website. So the widget will want to go onto your website. That adds a lot of productivity benefits for you. And the other thing then to consider is to think about how you're going to decide and assign priority groups. What are the priority groups going to be? Are you going to do age related? Are you going to do an analysis of your PMR? And then how are you going to, and I'll show you how to do that then, how to prioritize people in our system in a few minutes. And then there's some lessons and tips. I thought I'd just bring this together. I wrote an article for the IPU review this month. It was about lessons from the flu season. I was thinking, just put a quick summary together for you. I think it's useful, just because we learned a lot from the flu season last year. One of the things I think to consider is that, no matter what happens in the next while, in it's hard to know what vaccines pharmacies are going to get. It looks like a combination of Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer, assuming you've gone back and said yes to the HSE. But I'd say initially assume vaccines are on allocation with delivery shortages. In other words, that you may or may not get your full ordered amount. Now, I know that the Pfizer one, they're supposed to be having MOQ of basically 72 doses. So that's 12 multi-dose vials, 6 per. But maybe they have a shortage on that and you don't get the full amount. So that's sort of, certainly at the start, I'd make that assumption and maybe sort of just go tentatively with your online booking. I would definitely, even if you're not using a system like ours, definitely enable patients to register on a waiting list of some form or description. Do not, let them start scheduling themselves initially, certainly in the early days. As you get further into it and, there's more we get into that, what the HSE are calling the open access mode. Maybe, you switch off the wait list and you put it straight into a sort of a booking scheduling mode, but definitely initially just enable people to register on the waiting list. I would also use a single system, whether it's ours or not. Really, really urge you to just use one single system. It could be a list, it could be Excel, it could be pen and paper, it could be online. But if you, like we saw a couple of people mix and match last year, it really caused them a lot of problems. And then I would enter everything into that single system: walk-ins, phone calls, online registrations, everything goes into that single system. Last year, again, in the flu season, we put in this medical history intake form in the middle of the season, and what we noticed was it was used massively to help prioritize. So that's obviously there now at the start of this season. And people use that medical intake form to help prioritize patients. And I would use the concept of the registration waitlist for prioritization and contingency planning. And one of the things that the HSE is asking is that people minimize or eliminate waste if at all possible, and to have a contingency list in place for people who can basically turn up quickly for no-shows. And so that's something that you can do with the registered wait list. One thing to consider is to schedule vaccinations on receipt of vaccines. So either they're in their fridge and or you're absolutely 100% sure you're going to get them, but if not, then just schedule patients when you get the vaccines into your fridge. And again, that's sort of early couple of weeks to think like that. And also, when you're scheduling your vaccination hours, they don't have to be the same as the pharmacy. Indeed, I think it would be a good method to schedule them based on the number of doses in the multi-dose vial. So I'll give you an example. If you're, let's just say for the sake of discussion, it's AstraZeneca that you'll be administering, then if you've told us your vaccination slots are 15 minutes, then there's 11 doses in an AstraZeneca multi-dose vial, then that's equivalent to 2 hours and 45 minutes of vaccinations. And so schedule that multi-dose vial over the 2 hours 45. So it'll be 9 o'clock in the morning to 11:45 in the morning, that 2.75 hours, and that's one vial completely emptied out. And then the same in the afternoon. I mean, that's the AstraZeneca one. If it's Pfizer, then you're looking at 6 vaccinations per multi-dose vial, and therefore you could schedule that again at 15 minutes. You're talking about hour and a half slots. So you could empty out 2 vials in a 3-hour period with 15-minute slot. So our system can deal with, basically any slot duration, but from a patient perspective, it's a minimum of 5 minutes, but we can have, multiple people arriving, let's say at 9 o'clock or at 9:05. But I would definitely schedule your hours based on the multi-dose vial that you'll be getting from the HSE. So yeah, let's just dive straight into it, and we'll have a look at the system. And this here is when you log into our system. This is what it looks like. This is our cloud-based solution, the cloud-based platform. I'm using a fake pharmacy called Desmond's Irish Pharmacy. You'll see a couple of appointments in here for tomorrow. They're just for me, just fake patients, and you'll see some people in our wait list. So again, those of you who use our system, this is familiar to you, orders from mobile app, website orders, the repeat order status, messaging, statistics, etc. And this is the new tab for appointments. And just to highlight, just so that you're aware, the system is completely GDPR compliant, and there are tools to facilitate A, auditing, if you ever need to do an audit of everything, and B, GDPR. So you want to do strict processing for customer export their data, then you can do so here using these tools. And it's a requirement under GDPR, and we also sign a sub-processor GDPR agreement with you as well. So just to say then, this is the interface. You log in, you go to your appointments, and this is the screen that will initially show up. So let's just have a quick look at a couple of things that I said that you'd be looking at on the initial setup. So these are the three little lines over here. Three little lines over here are going to show you the setup instructions and the appointment types. The setup instructions are really easy. I'll also be emailing these to you as we go through setting you up. But basically, all you got to do is copy this piece of text and the second piece of text down here and send that to your developer. They put it on your site and it's done. It takes a couple of minutes only. And then let's just also go back over here, have a look at the appointment types. So the appointment types are here. Now I've got quite a variety of different appointment types, but I want to just highlight a few things for you here. So I've got 2 vaccinations for COVID-19. I've got COVID-19 vaccination 1, and at the bottom here, I've got COVID-19 vaccination 2, okay? So my COVID-19 vaccination 1, if I just go a little bit over to the right-hand side, you can see what my schedule looks like for the next 24 days in terms of what my appointments look like for the next 14 days, sorry. So I've got 2 appointments booked, but more importantly, I've got 225 slots available. So this is where you sort of manage the number of slots that you make visible and available to patients when you're doing online bookings. And then to the right of that, you will notice under the booking form, there's 3 statuses. There's unavailable, and unavailable means that the patient cannot book it, cannot see it, and therefore it's not visible to them. And I'll show you that when we go onto the patient view. And we always keep the vaccination 2 appointment unavailable, because that vaccination 2 appointment is for your internal use, okay? Then you will see there's also waitlist mode, and waitlist mode means the person registers for a waitlist. And then there's an allow booking mode, and allow booking mode means that the person, when they go onto your website, they can self-schedule an appointment, okay? So I'm just going to allow the appointment. I'm going to save off those changes here. Now, just to say that the available slots and so I've got 2, you'd add the 2 of those together, 227 slots available over the next 14 days. And how you modify that is that you go into your resource, again, back to these 3 buttons. In this case, I've got a couple of different consulting rooms, but I have my consulting room is where I'm doing all my vaccinations. Okay, and these are my hours for my consulting room for my vaccination. So you would notice that in actual fact, I have put in these hours here, 9 to 10:30, 11 to 12:30, and so on. And this is actually assuming, in this case, I am doing per day 4 Pfizer vials, multi-dose vials, 1 at 9, 1 at 11. 1 at 1 o'clock and another one at 3 o'clock, and I'm in 15-minute appointment slots. So I'm doing six appointments at 9 to 10:30, and I've repeated that through here. So I've set it up that way. So when you get our system, we literally just say 9 to 5 in here, and then you'll have to actually change this. And how you do that is that there is the concept of regular hours for that particular consulting room, and all you got to do is click on the day. I'm going to click on Monday here. And you can see I can set it as closed by just clicking up here, or I can go over here and have a look at these other hours. And I can say, right, my regular hours, I'm only going to do 3 multi-dose files on a Monday, and I'm just going to do them in the earlier hour part of the day and save those changes and done. And they will automatically flow through to the date-specific hours there. If you want to set a day as closed, I just say Saturday, for example. Actually, I'll pick a bigger one. I'll pick Wednesday. I'm going to set that as closed and save that. And again, you can see that flowing through to my calendar here. And if there's a bank holiday or there's a day that you want, you're not open, then again, you just click on, let's say 17th is a bank holiday. You can set it as closed, or you can override the hours and change them. So it's very easy to manage the scheduling. So I've done a couple of things there. I've actually changed a few items there. I've reduced my number of hours. That's going to reduce the number of available appointment slots available. And if I click back up here and look at the appointment types again, then we're going to see here COVID vaccination 1 and 2 bookings. That won't change, but the actual number of available slots now is reduced to 165. So that gives you visibility. It's sort of a tool to plan what is it going to look like for the next 14 days in terms of the number of slots that are available versus the number of vaccines ordered and expected to be delivered. So let's just save off that, and we're fine there. The other thing, just to show you, if you ever want to have a quick look at the booking form before it goes on live on your site, all you do is click it there. This is an actual exact simulation of what the patient is going to see in your website. And you can see they can only see COVID-19 vaccination 1. And you can click on that and you can see all the details that we have set up for you. There is another tool here to export appointments as a CSV if you need to do some analysis. And then there's a quick overview of what your calendar looks like with available slots. So we're in consulting room here, blue is available. And then I've got 2 appointments tomorrow, at 9, 9:30 and so on. So you can see what your availability calendar looks like over the coming days. So that's how that appears. Let's just go quickly on to the booking form as it looks like on your website. So this is my booking form on my website. And I'm just going to put on my light. Sorry, 1 second, please. Just notice it's getting dark. It being Ireland and gone 8 o'clock. So yeah, I just the booking button itself on your website, it can be an image, indeed, it can be a button, it can be anything. We do recommend on your own websites that you place that button sort of up here on the top right hand side, actually where we have our login. So for you to log in, we recommend that you put it up here on the top right hand side of your website. As people view a site, they read left to right and they tend to look at the top. So it's a high visibility area. You can use it as many types, that button, as many places as you want on the site. So you can have it there in your header, for example, and then you can have a COVID-19 specific page, and it could be there. You can have a flu page specific, it could be there. You could have a Viagra Connect page, it could be there, etc. So yeah, I just click on this here, view the booking engine, and it's going to pick up this particular item. So COVID-19 vaccination 1. Here's the text. You get to change this if you wish when we're setting up everything for you. So some people indeed do ask us to do that. So here's the information that is given to the patient. There are links also in here, that they can click on if they need to. And then we ask them, have they read and understand the above? And you will note that they cannot select a time, or they cannot select that button until they say, yes, I've read and understand the above. Now, in this case, when I press select time, it's actually going to bring up my calendar because I have it under booking mode. And we're going to pick an appointment for tomorrow. There's one available at 12, but you can see my slots are 15-minute slots. So I've got one at 9:15, 9:45, 10, etc. So let's just keep it at 12. Okay, and next I put in my details. So I put in patient as 3. I'm going to put in my PPSN number. Okay, that's mandatory. And that does need to be capital there. I was asked about that recently, and it is actually checking that it's the correct format of PPSN number. And then you ask them for their mobile number. So this works slightly differently on the mobile app, in that they don't put in a mobile number, because we're going to use the technology behind push messaging to push a message to them. We can also add their email address in here, so it can be either or if you want as well. Then the patient clicks here. This is the GDPR consent, so I allow the pharmacy to contact me. And then we go to the medical history. So this is like the intake form. And this is where you start the questionnaire. I've got six questions here. First one I've put in is the date of birth. I'm going to just put in 1965 here and progress. Have you ever had anaphylactic reaction? Maybe I'm going to skip that one. I'll show you how to deal with that in a minute. Have you ever been diagnosed with COVID? No. Have you had another vaccine? No. Have you bleeding disorder? No. Are you pregnant? No. Done. Questions have been recorded. Then I go on to the consent, and I read the consent. I've read and understand the above, and I understand the consent, and then you book the appointment. Booking the appointment gets confirmed, and then it says, there's details there, your number, your name, number, email address, all those contact details are there. And also, depending on how you've asked us to configure it, we will be sending the patient a confirmation text as well, to confirm the appointment. So that's okay, that's done, that's how it appears on the patient side. And then if we go back in over the appointments here, we will see here that there's a patient des 3 that I just came in here, and that patient des has added an appointment. Now, if I just go back for 1 second and just show you something here on the appointment types, I go back to the appointment type and I actually make this as a wait list. Okay, let's just change it to wait list and save those changes. You will notice that then on the actual website, the widget works slightly differently in that it doesn't allow them to make a booking, but it does allow them to register in a waiting list. So let's just click on that now. Press the actual details. Same process to get to read and click all the same buttons. When they select a time, they're saying there's no appointments available. Please register in a waiting list. They register now. They put in their, again, patient des 4. Put in my PPSN number. Put in my mobile number. Now the pharmacy contact, medical history, and put in 1960, next. I'm just going to click through no on all of these, and next consent, and that's it, registered now. So they've registered, and that registration complete. You're on our priority list, and you can see there's the, again, the confirmation. Okay, so that's how that works. And again, we go back into the back end of our system, and we can see that the wait list here is increased to 11 people. So let's just have a quick look at this, what this all means before we go look at some of the appointments. Up here, we show you what the next 14 days are going to look like in terms of appointment visibility. So you can just click down here and see all the appointments broken out by day. You can also view it by week. So you just look at this week, so you can get an assessment of this week, by month. So we bring it out to, in this case, you can see it's got a 6-month view, and then there's a wait list here. I'll go through the wait list in a second. You can also filter out the appointment types that are visible, that are actually in, like I've selected this week now to show you. So I can actually filter out and just look at COVID vaccination ones, and that's all I will have here because that's all I've booked. But that's how you select and look at the other types of vaccinations, that the other sort of services that you're making available on the system, and just shortlist them. You can also search by name there. So let's just go into show you one thing here about if there is a patient walks in or you got a phone appointment, then you can manually add the appointment very easily and net out the time. So it's COVID-19 vaccination 1. Sorry, I might have done that a bit quick. You just go to the day that you want to schedule the patient, so Friday, May 21st, add the appointment, just click that button, pick the vaccination type or the service, in this case vaccination 1. We're going to put in an appointment time for them as 9:15. Let's fill it up. The client's name, patient des. I'm running out of numbers. I think I've not used 5 yet. And we have an option to put in the email address here. And sorry, 0, and add the appointment. So now in this particular case, the patient will have been given, will have, you will have entered them in manually for appointment, but the actual, obviously they didn't book it themselves. So that whole self-service angle with the consent and the questions and all that hasn't happened in this case for that patient number 5, and I'll show you that in a minute, but that's how you do it manually. If we just go back up then and look at the waiting list, let's have a look at all of the entries on this waiting list. So we have the concept of these prioritization filters. So I have a variety of different, I've got 11 people on my waiting list. They're all me. But we can look at here, there's a priority filter. Now the priority filter is really a numerical value. And originally it was conceived to be 1 to 15 to align with HSE's priority groups, but obviously they've been changing that. And so we've just decided to make the priority filters that you can assign whatever priority you want to whatever number you want. So your priority ones, could be everybody over 65, or indeed your priority 60 could be everyone that's born in 1960. I think I put one of these in recently, one of these here in the last minute or so. Is this me? So here's if I just click on that patient, there's a patient 1960. So I could just log in. When I'm doing this, I can see they're on the registered wait list. I haven't given them an appointment time yet. You can see that up here. And so I'm just going to say, right, that person is, again, depending on how you want to prioritize this, they're born in 1960s. I'm just going to call them P60s, for example. So that's everyone born in the 1960s. And then what that allows you to do is when you go back out to the appointments, you can look through your wait list. You can look at everybody that's born in the 1960s by just clicking through P60, and there's everybody that's born in the 1960s. And then the workflow in terms of moving a patient from a wait list to an appointment is as follows. So you're looking at everybody that's prioritized as P60. You click on view that patient details. You look at all the details associated with them. You can change them if you need to, if they've made a mistake. You can view the consent text here. Okay, that's the consent that they agree to at that point in time of making their registration. And as I said, it is completely paperless. So as per the HSE, this is sufficient. You do not need to get a signed consent from them. This is sufficient. You can look at all of the questions. So date of birth, the questions that you've asked, and if you need to update any answer, you can do so by clicking the update answers. Let me just see if there's anything we'd want to add here. I'm just going to put in yes here for the sake of discussion, and just press that, and you can see now the answer changed to yes. And we've tracked that here in the history. So anything that touches this appointment, whether it's the pharmacist or whether it's the patient, we actually track it here in this history, and you can see that they've changed. That summary of the changes are there. So how you go about dealing with this patient then is that you want to assign a time to them. So our process is that you would contact the patient, and when you're contacting them, you click on the assign time button. We're trying to fill up tomorrow morning, the 21st, and we're going to say, all right, here's this patient is, I have, you're calling them, I've got a slot at 9:45, is that okay? Assign that time, and that's done. So now you can see that up here has changed from wait list to appointment time is at May 21st at 9:45. So that's how you convert somebody from being on a registered wait list to being actually an appointment. Now, once we've done that, once we've done that conversion, then the sort of workflow around the reminders, the appointment confirmation, and indeed the self-declaration of COVID status, that starts to kick in. Those texts or emails or push messages start to go automatically. Again, depending on the settings that you select when we're setting it up. So let's just go click back on appointments. That patient name is patient Des 4. We can see here that our Friday morning is filling up quite nicely. I have slots 9 through 10 o'clock is full. And if I look at my patient Des 4 and click on him, then we can see all the details from that patient. So that's sort of a quick overview of the waitlist function. So just to summarize, those waitlists, those priority numbers, they can be assigned any way you want. So you could say, actually, P1 is my highest priority. That's everybody over 65. P2 is everyone over 50. P3 is everyone over 40. P4 is everyone over 30. It could be as simple as that. Or if you wanted to get into it, things like you could have a contingency list. My contingency list is P100. That is anyone who's able to, when they get a phone call, will arrive within 5 minutes at the pharmacy. So really you can set it up whatever way you want. And I don't know if you can see me on the camera, but when we're giving you the training documents, we sort of have this priority group page that we send out with the setup instructions and our setup instruction document, which we send to you when we have everything set up for you. So that's an overview of the waiting list. let's just go back to the appointment section for a little bit and just talk about appointments. I did show you how to add someone manually to the appointments here. I think it was patient Des 5. Just actually, sorry, I need to roll back and just say you can actually do the same thing on the waiting list. You can manually add people onto the waiting list very easily just by putting in these details. And when you're doing that, you can also add a priority number to them. So you could just say here, type in the details, the patient PPSN, email, mobile number, and then you know that that is Mary, and Mary is over 65, she's a P1, and I just put in P1 there and add it to the waiting list. So sorry, going back to that. So the next 14 days, what they look like here, let's have a look at the appointments tomorrow and how would you deal with an appointment. So I think the patient that we just converted was Des 4, so it's 9:45 on Friday morning. Des 4 walks in and we have a view of everything, and we pretty much have everything in place, so we actually don't need to get Des 4 to sign anything. We don't need to do anything. He's just arrived in. So there's a variety of different things you can do if you need to. You could add an internal note. You could send another message, a text message to him. You can reschedule if necessary or cancel. But that's the appointment for Des 4. So assume Des 4 walks in and you do the vaccination, then the next thing to do would be, is to schedule his follow-on appointment. It's as easy as the following. You just press the button that we'll have configured for you up here, this one here, and it'll schedule it. Now, I have scheduled this as a Pfizer one, assuming it's 28 days after the first vaccination. So Des 4's vaccination number 2 will be on June 18th. Okay, so if I click on June 18th here, it'll bring me straight through. So that's our system suggesting June 18th. The pharmacist can take a decision, well, on another day if necessary, whatever. We've got a little mouse over there. You can see it says plus 27 days, plus 28 days, plus 29 days. And we're just going to set the follow-up appointment time for 9 o'clock. And ask Des 4, is that okay with you? He'll say yes or no, and if he says yes, just add on the follow-up appointment, and that is automatically scheduled. So the two of those appointments are intrinsically connected, so they are actually, you can just slip between the two of them very easily. So you can see what happened on May 21st, the first vaccination, go through the history, and here you can see the second appointment details. If there is a requirement for a booster shot, then we'll be able to add the booster shot CV3 up here as well, so you can connect to the first two appointments. Now in this, there is the questions will not have been recorded because the patient will not have actually done a self-service here. So what you do is you can easily add the answers here for traceability purposes. You may want to just recheck, that person's date of birth. You may want to put no, just add all of this in. Let's say those, and there's just a quick, the additional questions that you may want to confirm. So some of these are provisional at this point in time, but I think it's close to what they're going to be. And they're certainly what we're starting to fill up our systems with for people. So these are the second set of questions that you'd ask. So then you've got full traceability, you've got a complete audit log of everything that's occurred. And you can see down here when this pharmacist logged in and changed these pieces of information here. Okay, so that would be the second appointment. So let me just go back out here. Let's have a quick look at our appointments again. Let's see if there's anything else I want to add to that. I think that is largely it. You could if you need to look at an appointment, let's just show you one appointment. If you want to reschedule an appointment, you can easily reschedule and change time or move to a wait list. So that appointment will go back to a wait list. So I'll just move that patient back to the waiting list. So it's done, and you can see the patient's now removed. The appointment is moved from being a scheduled appointment to a wait list. Okay, and click on that. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you. So two things, I haven't been able to show you is that we have two things that we're just finishing on our development servers. One is we are implementing, or we're just testing, actually, it's completed, the self-declaration of a patient's COVID status. So 24 hours before the patient's appointment is due, they're going to get a message to complete and to self-declare what their COVID status is. Are they free or not free, in essence? So it's a single question with a couple of bullet points, and they've got to confirm that. So that's all automatic, and it should save you a lot of time. So you don't need to call them and check. It's there. It'll be visible here in this panel, just here up at the patient details. And the other thing that we're going to put in, that we actually are just testing it as well, is a completion button. So you can complete, just press, again, you don't have to do this, but if your workflow is such that you want to complete the event and just say that the patient has showed, then there's a completion button that we'll put in here, just press complete. And of course, the last thing then, I guess the third item is that we're just updating our mobile apps as well. If you're using our mobile app, it'll actually be able to use the appointment integrated into it as well. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your time, and good luck with the expression of interest. I hope you've been getting positive feedback from the HSE, and I hope I'm going to be working with some of you over the next couple of months and getting the system deployed and making it very efficient for you to do your vaccination program. So again, thank you very much. My name is Des Byrne. You can get me on 021 21 21 393. And thank you for your time this evening. Okay, take care and bye-bye.